People, you should be paying attention to this. You know, just discovering Lorenzo. It's not that time,
And this part will really help you with
with that we have.
There's three different types of natural gas. We have conventional natural gas, associated natural gas, and unconventional natural gas. And here we can see them. And they have different names because it's the different ways in which they are like gained and searched for. So the first one, which is conventional natural gas, it can be found in large cracks and spaces of the layers of overlaying rock. So basically, many years ago, when like dinosaurs and animals died, they like stayed on the floor, and when they decomposed, layers started like building up, and like all of that material, like it's now energy. So that's how we can see that it's like under the earth. Then the second one, it's like deposits of crude oil, and it's called associated natural gas. So it's not as like deep into the earth. And then the third one, natural gas may be found in tiny spaces with the formation of shales, sandstone, and other forms of sedimentary rock. So here we can see the three different types of.
And they have three different locations, which is interesting too.
Yes.
Really interesting.
Modalities and uses of natural gas. So natural gas is made of methane and like different gases. So like we said, it's basically made of decomposed materials of like animals. So they became energy and they can be found under the Earth's surface. So just like oil, there's gas. Basically. So yeah, the Earth layers, they mixed up with different types of chemicals, and that's how we have natural gas.
Yeah.
You guys can tell us if you want to pause to take notes. Yeah, any questions? Then history. So in 1816, in Baltimore, here in the United States, it became the first city of using natural gas to create energy. So they basically made like cracks on the earth, and they used the gas to make like light and fire. And how they did this, I'm not sure if you can be seen. A 2-inch diameter pipeline was built, and well, it went from like the ground and under, and it proved that the natural gas could be brought safely and easily from the underground source to be used for practical purposes. And this wasn't like yet used in like houses; it was more like manufacturing, and that's where the
first one.
So before electricity, there was gas that were lighting up the lamps.
That's
Yeah.
why, like, if you go to an old house, like in Argentina, for example, like it's like in a third world country, like you heat the house with natural gas, like and like some like the stove, like you know how here we have the electrical ones, like there you turn them on with like, natural gas. Like in older houses, it's all.
Yeah, in Miami Beach, there's a lot of gas. People, a lot of cooks often prefer to use natural gas because there's more of a control of it.
Yeah, I heard that. I
very
heard that.
smelly though.
Yeah. I mean,
it is not. They purposely add.
do it because
We're
it's
gonna talk
older.
about, right?
Yeah.
But they purposely add a smell to it. But yeah, there's North Miami Beach. There's a Teco Gas, and they have pipelines, and they supply natural gas around.
And older areas, there's more natural gas.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because even though my neck of the woods is kind of old, there's no pipeline to my house,
So you should.
so I don't have it. But like in other places, if you were to build in a place that doesn't have it, you can actually like request, but it'll be a lot of money, to have the pipeline come to you.
Yeah.
But it's like, never mind, I'll just cook with electric.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right, you're absolutely right.
So
Cool.
here we have more information about the history. So it like became more like relevant during the 19th century, and here we can see the Bunsen burner where we using
Nice.
science class. So that was used with natural gas, and that's how they heated up like the houses, and they cooked food, and they were able to like create a flame that could be used safely in houses. So like that's when it began being used like in residential living conditions.
I mean, in my house, I forgot where it was. The heater had broken, but like our stove was still working, and it was natural gas, so we just turned it on, and it would like heat the whole house.
Yeah.
It was dangerous, but it was
Yeah,
really
it's
cold.
dangerous.
So
And then it became, like, they were able to manufacture it in order to create light. So it wasn't only like for fire and cooking, they had other ways of using the light. So here we have more history, and here is when they created like the pipelines to take it like further, like not only in the places where they had the natural gas resources, but to like other places in the country where they could like take use of this. And this was mostly in like post-World War II, and in like it became relevant in the 50s and then like more in the 60s. And then they built like other ways of creating energy, and it's still, we'll see.
This seems to be above ground. Did they put it underground and this was the surface? Or are there some gas pipelines in other places that are on the surface like that?
No, there's some that are on the surface,
Okay.
yes.
Because I know here they're underground.
I mean, also that was an old, like,
Yeah.
year ago, so they probably did it.
But like before it was only for like the use of it, and now it's more like visual, so that's why they began doing it
Yeah.
underground. And we're gonna look more into it now.
Oh, perfect.
Yes. And it became like very, very like big then. So there's like, they created like thousands of different pipelines, and it became like $1 billion industry.
Okay, so now we're going to look at the states where the highest percent of natural gas can be found. So looking at the map as well, you can see that Texas and Pennsylvania hold kind of the same amount, but Texas has a little bit higher natural gas. This of course means that they have the most layers of sedimentary rock as well as all the fossil fuels. Then we have Louisiana, which is like kind of a little bit more darker blue. Yeah, I know that shade. But it still has a higher percentage. And then Oklahoma and West Virginia all in darker blue. And then we have the lighter shade. You can see how California has really light shade of blue in comparison to Louisiana. And yeah, we can see there's states like Florida that barely produce any natural gas.
And then offshore, you have, from
Yeah.
Texas, you have the whole Gulf of Mexico, which has gas.
Yeah, that's
Oh,
why
yeah.
I had asked you, Ms. Hudson, if here Texas is the one that produces the most, because I forgot for which one I'm pretty sure it was oil, the one
Yeah.
that you guys did. They also had the most, so
Yeah.
I knew that they had the most here, so it's like they produce the most out of everything, but nuclear, which is like the greenest, they don't.
Of course.
So it's like,
Right,
They're really
solar,
not
they don't have a
green
lot of solar.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're not very green.
Yeah.
Okay, so next we're going to go into detail on Louisiana and Oklahoma as natural gas states. So to begin, Louisiana, which is north of the Mississippi River, Louisiana has abundant crude oil and natural gas reserves, both offshore and onshore, buried beneath the thick sediments of the Mississippi. So right next to the Mississippi is where there are a lot of sediments as well as natural gas reserves very deep down. Therefore, it's very easy to extract those and use them as a source of energy. The top 3 states in both total and per capita energy consumption. So that applies to both Oklahoma and Louisiana.
Okay, go back to the map again. The map I kind of wanted, although that's a good map, I kind of wanted where there are current natural gas plants or where there is natural gas like
I think
fracking.
we have that in the paper.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Because Pennsylvania has now outlawed fracking, so even though it has natural gas reserves, it's probably not
No,
going to
they're
be up
mostly
there.
around here, like
Yeah.
in like this corner between the
Uh-huh.
trees, or
That's where it is?
we find the Mississippi River.
Uh-huh.
That's where like you're gonna find most
I'm
of
pretty sure in the
the.
paper they're like the little dots that,
Oh, perfect. Oh,
yeah, so
okay.
we can submit it for the rest of the class.
Oh, okay.
It might be in the,
Yes, I
in
think
the
it's in the
PowerPoint also.
PowerPoint.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so moving on from Louisiana, Oklahoma has the 4th largest producer of marketed natural gas, as we can see up here in the map as well. It's the 4th largest consumer of natural gas, and 2/5 of natural gas consumed in the state is used for electric power generation, and it has 7% of the state's natural
And
gas.
that's Oklahoma?
Yes, that's
Okay.
Oklahoma.
Okay, so as just explained, natural gas comes from like the remains of dead animals that they literally like after millions and millions of years they are converted into energy, and they're withdrawn from the earth like the pipelines, and then they're sent to these wells which they're called wellheads, and they're separated by dry natural gas and wet natural gas. and dry only has methane, while wet has methane and ethane and this other one, I forgot what it was called. It's like heat.
Propane?
Sorry?
Propane?
Yeah, that. And then from the wellhead, there are central processing plants where water vapor and non-hydrocarbon compounds are removed and NGLs are separated. And these NGLs are also sold separately. They can also be sold separately.
Very
And
interesting, yeah.
The NGLs are called natural gas plant liquids. And then, then the chemicals, like the natural gas, the odor is added because there can be like natural gas leaks, and without the smell, the natural gas is very, very dangerous. Like it can be like, they can catch on fire and like start fires, or it could be bad for like the humans and for the atmosphere. So that's why they add the odor. So like, I don't know if you guys have ever heard, but like, if you turn on the gas and fire doesn't come out, it's like, make sure to smell it, because if you smell it, there's a leak. And there have also been a lot of like leak accidents in like houses where like they don't smell it, but like the smell is there just because the house has exploded, and so they add as a safety precaution. And then it is transported through the underground pipelines or above ground to different like fields of distribution compounds. And then I found a video here that it's only 3 minutes long. It really, it's good. It's like it's called Natural Gas 101. It's like a good way of like short and quick of how it's produced. If you guys want to watch it,
Yeah.
should I put it for the file?
Yeah, that'd be great. You're gonna have to, you're calling up Justine.
Oh,
I know my people.
Worth it for your home. Well, before you get
Natural gas. Natural gas is primarily methane, or CH4, with smaller quantities of other hydrocarbons. It was formed millions of years ago when dead organisms sunk to the bottom of the ocean and were buried under deposits of sedimentary rock. Subject to intense heat and pressure, these organisms underwent a transformation in which they were converted to gas over millions of years. Natural gas is found in underground rocks called reservoirs. The rocks have tiny spaces called pores that allow them to hold water, natural gas, and sometimes oil. The natural gas is trapped underground by impermeable rock called a cap rock and stays there until it is extracted. Natural gas can be categorized as dry or wet. Dry gas is essentially gas that contains mostly methane. Wet gas, on the other hand, contains compounds such as ethane and butane, in addition to methane. These natural gas liquids, or NGLs for short, can be separated and sold individually for various uses, such as in refrigerants and to produce products like plastics. Conventional natural gas can be extracted through drilling wells. Unconventional forms of natural gas, like shale gas, tight gas, sour gas, and coal bed methane, have specific extraction techniques. Natural gas can also be found in reservoirs with oil and is sometimes extracted alongside oil. This type of natural gas is called associated gas. In the past, associated gas was commonly flared or burned as a waste product, but in most places today it is captured and used. Once extracted, natural gas is sent through small pipelines called gathering lines to processing plants, which separate the various hydrocarbons and fluids from the pure natural gas to produce what is known as pipeline quality dry natural gas before it can be transported. Processing involves 4 main steps to remove the various impurities: oil and condensate removal, water removal, separation of natural gas liquids, sulfur and carbon dioxide removal. Gas is then transported through pipelines called feeders to distribution centers or is stored in underground reservoirs for later use. In some cases, gas is liquefied for shipping in large tankers across oceans. This type of gas is called liquefied natural gas, or LNG. Natural gas is mostly used for domestic or industrial heating and to generate electricity. It can also be compressed and used to fuel vehicles and as a feedstock for fertilizers, hydrogen fuel cells, and other chemical processes. Natural gas development, especially in the United States, has increased as a result of technological advances in horizontal drilling and hydraulic fracturing. When natural gas is burned, there are fewer greenhouse gas emissions and air pollutants when compared to other fossil fuels. In fact, when used to produce electricity, natural gas emits approximately half the carbon emissions of coal. Despite fewer emissions, natural gas is still a source of CO2. In addition, Methane is a potent greenhouse gas itself, having nearly 24 times the impact of CO2. During the extraction and transportation process, natural gas can escape into the atmosphere and contribute to climate change. Natural gas leaks are also dangerous to nearby communities because it is a colorless, odorless, highly toxic, and highly explosive gas. That's natural gas.
And here,
And then that's just a diagram explaining the whole process.
Yeah, but the problem, another problem with natural gas is, just exactly what Justine said. But another thing is, if there's a fire in a building, and that building has natural gas, not electricity, yeah, it could explode, so they have to shut down the gas. So they'll be like, does this building have gas? You gotta shut down the gas, and they have to evacuate everyone. So if, like a 100-story building, if there's a fire on the, 100th floor, and it was just an electrical fire, they wouldn't evacuate everybody. You could probably sleep through it. But if it's a natural gas,
Yeah, you
if
can't
that
risk it.
building is being served by natural gas, they'll knock on your door and evacuate you.
Yeah, you can't risk it because it's very.
Yeah, because it's, yeah.
yes, and there's like checks that you have to complete.
So the pricing, like you have explained, if you aren't located in a place where there's a pipeline near it, it could get very expensive, but, so it varies between location and the seasonal changes. So the standard price, average price, not counting if you live like far from a pipeline, in 2019 was $9.52 per 1,000 cubic feet, and 0.1 hours per, what was it, I forgot, cubic feet. Yeah. And then, so it's not very expensive, like it's a very affordable type of energy. So the average cost of natural gas generators installed in 2015 was $696 per kilowatt, and which is a 28% decline from 2013. So as it's used more, it's less expensive. And nearly 75% of the natural gas capacity installed in 2015 were combined cycle units. So they cost less when you do that. And then
Are combined cycle units combined with oil, or?
it's combustion turbine and steam turbine.
Oh, nice.
And they're more efficient when they have combustion turbines alone. They all, when they're both. So it's also cheaper and more efficient, so it's always a better thing, the better way. And then natural gas plants with internal combustion engines were more expensive. That's fair way to do it also. Averaging, look at compared to price, it's almost, yeah, here, like 1,700. It's more than double what it costs. And then here's the chart, compare it, like how many they use. Oh, sorry. At that place. There are 74 generators in the United States in 2015, and it was an average of $5 million.
That's what I was looking for, yeah, that's what I was looking for. Even though your map was good, I wanted to see the plan,
And
so
this
it's
is
good to know this one.
2015, but I got
Perfect, yeah.
74. And they do last pretty long, 22 years, which is
And they're probably will last longer than
Yeah.
that, just like everything else, they're finding it lasts longer.
they always say
Yeah.
like to be safe.
Exactly, they
Yeah.
low estimate it, yeah.
So this is how much of it's increased.
Wow.
For now, of course, it's kind of been decreasing, like it stayed on average and now it's been increasing, but like always, there's up and downs, but it's been shown to like,
Wow, yeah.
yeah, the production and the consumption, like right now, this is 2020, the production's higher, but the consumption is still.
Yes, and we can say that we after the second.
Yeah.
So in 2015, it showed that the U.S. was home to 1,740 natural gas power plants. Obviously, according to the demand and the production increase, that has increased greatly. The average natural gas plant requires 20 to 40 acres of land. That has also expanded because of the demand. Natural
That's
gas.
large area, 20 acres, that's like 20 football fields.
Yeah.
Because they need like the land to.
Yeah, they
Also
need
not
land.
counting the
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
they're big.
So they are
They're
big.
big, they're
They're
big.
big. Natural gas plants in the US required approximately 52,200 acres of land. So the land natural gas uses for resource production is very minimal. This is a benefit that it's excluding land needed to mine materials, and that natural gas emits 50 to 60% less carbon dioxide. This is also a benefit. But on the contrary, it breaks migration patterns, pollutes rivers and streams, and causes erosion of dirt and pollutants because of all the mining. It can be very hurtful for the environment.
It's not that green or energy.
Yeah, it has its ups and downs. Hydraulic fracturing, which we know is fracking, can cause earthquakes, and it overburdens the local water resources, especially since we've seen that along the Mississippi River, there's a lot of extraction. Fracking can cause a lot of earthquakes, and it can overburden that, especially that big local water source. A little bit more. So in the U.S. alone, 27.31 trillion cubic feet of natural gas were consumed in 2015. So we can see that it's a lot. 35% of that was used in electricity alone. There's other ways that natural gas can be used, but just 35% of it was electricity. And also in 2015, the U.S. imported 2.718 trillion cubic feet and exported 1.783 trillion cubic feet of natural gas. So making imports.
Hello, Miss O, how are you?
Hello, everyone.
Hi.
Oh, I'm making a presentation?
Yeah, you're doing a great job. Yeah.
Oh,
Hi, Miss O.
that's an
Hi, Miss
answer?
O.
Yeah. Who's speaking right now? Who's good?
Tell me she gave you a Z
No, I studied it. I did it.
Okay, oh yeah.
Wait, wait.
Oh, it's nice to meet you.
Not sick.
All right, great to see you. What's the theme of the presentation?
Natural gas.
And its usage.
Yeah. Very interesting. So you learn a lot.
Sorry for
I was
the.
at Costco gassing up a car. They said they have 3,000 cars go through there a day, 40,000 gallons of gas.
Wow, just at that one Costco.
Flagler and.
Wow.
Did you see that, gas prices are
Yeah,
like
more, I predicted $5 a gallon, you know it's coming your way.
crazy.
More of what?
Yeah.
In the States,
Yeah, California's already 517. The
Yeah,
barrel
California's always so high.
always, but Hawaii's higher. But remember how, what was I gonna say? How last week and the week before I was telling you what the price of crude barrel is? And videos were like $70 or $80 a barrel for oil. It's now up to $130. It went up $30 in the past like 2 weeks. It's crazy, 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 yeah. And it's only gonna get worse before it gets better. You know, it's getting worse. And Shell got a lot of heat, the gas company Shell, because they're still importing from Russia. 8% of our gas, only 8, which is good, but 8% of our gas is coming from Russia, and we still haven't boycotted that. We need to tell them something. I know.
Hey
Oh.
guys, we can go back to the presentation.
Yeah, let's go back to natural gas.
So we all know the facts. We went through those. Just the last one, that it makes imports about 12% of the total amount of gas used.
Like in the video, it said like natural gas is also used for like plastic and like production of other things.
So I do have a question for number 5. Is it easy to acquire, pretty much? Do we have a lot of it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and,
Very available.
yeah, very available, okay, and, once they've got it, oh, you've already talked about environmental costs, okay, that was the only thing, okay, nice, okay, please continue.
Then we have the social political aspects of natural gas. So after before it like boomed here in the United States, they began doing like regulations such as the Natural Gas Act of 1931. Where
I mean, the
they
gnats are coming from those plants, you know.
yes, and like they made like rules about how like the pipelines were gonna be regulated here in the country because like we saw the pictures, they're very pretty, and like they explode, they can be very dangerous, so that's what the regulation is about. So they also regulated interesting activities on the use of natural gas, and the government justified the regulations because they thought that there were like monopolies, which I'm not sure everyone knows how a monopoly works. But it's like there's the companies where they like have the power of the prices, so they can get like very very expensive if there's no regulation. So the government luckily they like made rules about that, and then there's also like a lot of state regulated like laws about natural gas, like mostly connected to the monopolies because they were scared that since it's a very big energy like source, that these companies were gonna be affecting the usage. And then in 1954, when like it was starting to boom, the Supreme Court like put laws on like the prices of natural gas. Then as we saw, most of the
Nancy,
pipelines,
Lorenzo,
they're regulated by the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission. And these are all like commissions that were based on the act that we mentioned before, which is the Federal Act of Energy. And here we can see that the prices, since we saw the monopolies, they were regulated in order to not affect the citizens. And yes, oh, and there's also like many, as we like Justine was saying, how there's smells and there's like can be explosions and fires. There's a lot of like people that have to go and check on the places that have natural gas usage in order to like, be safe and be sure that there's not gonna be like any damage. So that like is one of the laws that's concerned the usage of natural gas.
So we're going back to our favorite two states that we like so much, Louisiana and Oklahoma. Oklahoma's later. So here we kind of just wanted to present the natural gas vehicle weight exemptions for especially that is basically these states. I highlighted a couple of like more important parts so that way we don't get too like confused because it's a bit confusing. Basically saying that natural gas may exceed the state's gross and axle vehicle weight limits. It's important because the difference between the weight of the vehicle with a natural gas tank and a comparable diesel train system is up to 2,000 pounds. So this exemption applies on all state roads and interstate highways. We also provided the CNG, which is the Deregulation of Compressed Natural Gas as a Motor Fuel, and the Natural Gas Policy Act, the NGPA. Basically, just we highlighted the important parts that it does not regulate the sale of CNG, and it used to be used as a transport fuel. And for the NGPA, it's just a compressed national energy act.
and you had 3 states, so there's Louisiana, Oklahoma, what's your 3rd state?
We mentioned Texas, how was like the main. Like,
Oh, yeah,
Texas,
Texas, yeah.
we're not touching Texas.
Yeah, no, yeah,
So
that's smart.
And now our other favorite state, Oklahoma. For Oklahoma, we provided the Oklahoma Office of Management and Enterprise Services, which is the OMES. It's a fleet management division which may construct, install, acquire, operate, and provide alternative fueling infrastructure where public access to alternative fuel infrastructure is not readily available. So of course there's our taxes and fees, and the CNG as well that was used for Louisiana, sorry. Used in motor vehicles is subject to a state motor fuel tax of 0.13 cents per gasoline gallon equivalent.
So are they supporting natural gas, do you think, in vehicles?
Yes.
They both are, okay.
Yes, they're like helping the transportation
Yeah,
and the usage of natural gas.
so these are laws that they're not exactly financial incentives, but they're like legal incentives.
Exactly.
it's
Yeah,
always
perfect,
better
okay.
to be like controlled.
Now, any news, even though I know it's your thing, did you talk about fracking and how a lot of states are banning it now?
Yeah, I spoke about fracking.
Okay,
Yeah.
and how they're banned?
Yeah, that's how Pennsylvania is like stopping
Yeah.
Okay.
production of, yes.
So future trends. we've said a lot of positive things. It's not hard to sense where it's
Fire up.
we're almost done, guys. Last one. It's very and it's easy to transport and
Firefox, fire.
easy to manufacture, and there's a lot of it, so it's been proven to like increase in revenue. And in only 11 years, it's estimated from 2019 to 2030, the growth of natural gas is expected to grow from 9 BCFD to 30.
Oh
so it's
my.
more than double.
Yeah,
And-
triple.
Yeah, almost triple. This is coming in from Asia. Malaysia does a lot of
So at least it's not being fracked.
yeah. And North America has an abundance of gas resources, also that's why it's not expensive and because we have a lot. And
You need to steal one of our presenters? Oh, okay.
No, I need to steal something from the other room.
Oh, okay.
with more than 1,000
I
trillion
know.
cubic feet at cost
He's
economics.
sometimes awake. I know, I've woken him up like 3 times. Yeah, it's not a good look, Lorenzo, for teachers to walk and she's sleeping. Doesn't make me look good. All right.
Of $2.8 per million British thermal unit. This amount of energy would be enough to cover for more than 25 years of domestic demand.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a lot. I mean, this number, 1,000 is insane. And become a $100 billion market in the
Oh,
next
great.
5 years.
So, you said this. Yes, tripling, wow, okay.
Yeah, and then these are just one of the charts. How much?
Oh, look at trying it out, nice, all right.
And then there's one more. For transportation, it's pretty much remains the same, and then industrial and electric, like, for these 3, it's pretty much stayed. And then for net export, I found it, like, you see how there's, like, negative, which I didn't, it's
Right.
gone from negative and it's increased,
Because
and
now we're
it's,
exporting it, yeah, we're just, you know, that's how much we're producing it,
Yeah.
we're selling it to other countries.
and here it's, like, kind of like a
A timeline.
just like a
Estimate?
estimate, because here we're like looking into the future.
Yeah,
and the
exactly.
future is like expected to remain.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. And then that's it. That's natural
All
gas.
right. All right, question, Stephanie.
It's regulated by the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission and the Pipeline and Hazardous Materials Safety Board.
No, get over there, no problem. I got
Federal Power.
Federal Power Commission.
Okay, and the sites and modalities are industrial.
Here we saw the video and then.
And I go back to your,
No, like,
the intro.
Ah,
Yeah,
here,
there you
there.
go.
yeah, okay,
The thing that.
and like. one
No,
more
go
slide.
up so you can write it. Yeah, that.
Thank you.
Conventional, yeah. Okay, I would have liked a little more talking about fracking being banned in states.
Oh.
But other than that, it's an excellent presentation. And so you have earned all 3 a 98. Very good, very good. Thank you, excellent. All right. Yeah, I have mixed feelings about natural gas like anybody.
Yeah.
Every energy